Welcome, comic lovers. Old comic guy coming at you with another comic haul. This is kind of cool and full of surprises. So, I hit up a yard sale in Sun City, and Sun City, Arizona. If you don't know, it's where a lot of retirees live. Um, Genuinely, I'm now to the point that I'm like, that doesn't sound so bad. Um, Other than we are in a desert, and they love the desert landscaping there. But a lot of the houses are really nice, so I don't know. Yeah. Um, and most of them, you must be like a certain age, 55, 65 or older. That means my kids can't live with me. Like, really, that just sounds wonderful. They can come back and visit, and grandbabies can come over. But yeah, so anyway, so I saw this yard sale. I pull in, and we're looking around, and my wife loves a lot of the antique stuff. And there's a banker box. And in my head, I think banker boxes hold comics. Not because I put my comics in there, but because a lot of the collections that I find, people put them in banker boxes. So I go digging into a banker box. And I open it up, and it has some comics in it. It's not full. There's some magazines and stuff. So I end up with some Mad magazines and stuff, some cartoons, torn up. They're pretty rough shape. Not like the comics are great, but then I'm like, okay, so I make a deal. I buy them all. One, I saw some All-Star Squadrons, so I'm going to buy them all. And so that's kind of the deal I made. And let me show you what I got. So, All-Star Squadron number 29. This is A Tale of the Seven Soldiers of Victory. It's Roy Thomas, Jerry Ordway. The Shining Knights retelling the story from leading comics number 3 to Winston Churchill. So that's pretty cool. And of course, all the Seven Soldiers of Victory are there. Okay, no, not all of them. I don't see Wing. Yep. The unofficial 8th member of their crew. So number 29 was there. Number 31, which is pretty awesome. This is Roy and Rick Hoberg. This is 1984. This is the first time the original Aquaman is shown since the Golden Age. The original Aquaman is actually the son of a famous explorer. If he told you the name, you'd know who it was right away. In this, Roy wanted to use the Freedom Fighters, and he specifically wanted Len Wein's approval to use them because Len Wein had done the Freedom Fighter series for DC. And he'd been using the Quality Heroes with the Golden Age heroes already, so he really wanted to use them. And so Len Wein gave his consent, and he did. So pretty cool. Then I found a bunch of Infinity Incorporateds. So this one is Volume 1. The series ran from 84 to 88, 56 total issues. 1 through 53, there were 2 annuals and 1 special. They're the kids of the Justice Society, right? So 35, that's this one, came out in 87. It has the Global Guardians teaming up with the Infinitors against the Injustice Unlimited, who were children and or members of the Injustice Society. The art is McFarlane and Tony DeZuniga. This cover is McFarlane. Writers Roy and Dan Thomas. The first Fury. Okay, so she's not. That's weird, right? So, the Golden Age Fury, who's supposed to be Lita Trevor's mother now, appears in a JSA movie poster, implying Roy and Dan both assumed that character would take the Wonder Woman slot in the history after Crisis. So this is 87. Crisis was 84, 85, right in that ballpark. It would actually end up being Miss America who ends up taking that role, and later Wonder Woman's mother, Hippolyta. So it's kind of weird, but it's pretty cool. And then we have 36, which is, let's see, who did the cover of this? Joe Brzezowski and Dick Giordano did the cover. The art inside is still McFarlane and Tony DeZuniga, but yeah, pretty cool. 37 with an awesome McFarlane cover, and Tony DeZuniga, who also were both doing the art. This is the origin of Northwind, from Federia, which is Upper Greenland area. And then issue 40 covers Vince Agrandezzi, and Tony DeZuniga, and they're doing the art and the cover. Rick Tyler, our man, gets a letter in this issue, which is written by his father Rex, where Rex is recounting his origin, and he gets the letter in this issue, but the letter isn't read to us in this issue. Other stuff's going on, but the issue where they tell his origin is actually Secret Origins. I think it's volume 2, number 16. In Secret Origins number 16, it implies that Rick had got the letter. The letter was being sent to Rick, and when Rick would get it. So it's pretty cool that they actually included that, given that Roy was involved in Secret Origins a lot. In fact, was writing most of the Golden Age characters' origins. So this is Young All-Stars Annual number 1 from 1988. Covers Michael Bear. Roy and Dan Thomas, of course, wrote it. Mike inside, the art inside. Mike Gustovich, Joe Kubert, Brian Murray, Michael Bear, and Tony DeZuniga. So lots of different art. The editor was interesting. This is Mark Waid as the editor. I assume you don't do much with Roy. Like, you're not going to tell him he's just wrong, but you're going to look for like clerical errors and stuff. But that's pretty cool, and it explains some of why Mark Waid loves the Golden Age characters and really usually respects them when he does stuff with them. The follow-up to this is in Infinity Inc. Annual 2, but they're each standalone stories. So this story is fine, and then the follow-up works as a standalone story. And then I picked up lots of these, right? So Justice Society of America number 8. This is volume 2. It was 10 issues, 92 to 93. Jesse Chambers first appears in number 1 of this series, and she is Johnny Quick's daughter, but she first appears as Jessie Quick in number 8, this issue. So that's pretty cool, and she's on the cover. The writers, Len Straczynski, I probably messed that up, Mike Probeck and Mike Macklin are the art. Mike Parobeck did the cover. The editors, and I also thought this was interesting, the editor of this was Brian Augustine, who later comes into, it's interesting they start as editors. Like, I always thought that would be the position afterwards, but that's where most people started in the industry. And Ruben Diaz is in this also. So this is number 8. We got number 9. Pretty cool. This is when Guy has the yellow ring and he's fighting the Golden Age Green Lantern. Doesn't end well for Guy, so that's okay. And then I do love these older characters. So the Fighting American, DC actually had license at one point. So it was Fighting American was created in 1954 by Simon and Kirby for Prize Publications, but it would be published by Marvel, DC, Harvey, Rob Liefeld's Awesome or Extreme, Awesome Entertainment, Dynamite, and Titan Comics. For DC, it was a 6-issue miniseries written by Dave Rawson. Art was Greg LaRocque, who also did this cover, and that was back in 1994. Pretty cool. So the Mighty Crusaders. Let's see. So I don't think this is the first version of Red Circle superheroes, but it's one of the early ones. Red Circle was Archie's. So Archie had the first patriotic superhero. Well, MLJ did before it was called Archie. And their Pep comics had S.H.I.E.L.D. in it, and S.H.I.E.L.D. and Wizard had S.H.I.E.L.D. in it. So they had superheroes back in the day. Anyway, the Red Circle was their horror line for a while, and then gradually it became their superhero line. And so this is 1983, 85-ish. No, between 83 and 85 was when the series ran. The writer and the artist are Rich Buckler. He actually brought in Kerry Burkett, who had created it by about issue 4. He created Nemesis for DC, and I don't know if you guys know this. So the art for all these is pretty much Rich Buckler. So an interesting thing about Rich Buckler, he's the guy who hired this young kid we all know and love, George Perez. Not for Red Circle, but when he was with DC. He hired George Perez. Pretty cool. He co-created the All-Star Squadron with Roy Thomas. And now S.H.I.E.L.D. was not that's S.H.I.E.L.D. here, right? I think that's Lancelot Strong. Anyway, so this is issue 1, but it's pretty cool because they had a bunch. They had issue 2. And it wraps around. I wish I had some of the clear boards to show you guys. I still think that's pretty cool. Issue 3. Issue 3 is kind of cool. I wish, again, I had clear boards because you get this perspective on this one, and on the back, it's the reverse perspective. So you're seeing from him looking down, looking at her, which is kind of cool. And there were 2 of these, so that was cool. 2 of the same. And then they had issue 4. And issue 4 is where they start featuring the original S.H.I.E.L.D., Joe Higgins. The original S.H.I.E.L.D. was created by Irv Novick and Harry Shorten, I think. Yeah. Before Captain America or any of the other flag type characters. So that's pretty cool. They also had, so they were right up my style. Like, this guy liked a lot of the same stuff. So this is the Comet. It was licensed from Archie, 91, 92, part of the Impact line for DC. The writer was Mark Waid and Tom Lyle. And Tom Lyle did the art and the cover. Inks were Scott Hanna, and the editor was Brian Augustine. So I found issue 2 and issue 3. Pretty cool. Both covers, same writer, artist, all that stuff. And then they had Captain Thunder and the Blue Bolt. This came out in '87. for Hero Comics. It's Roy and Dan Thomas. The art for number one here was Del Barras. And the first one has the origin of the Blue Bolt. This came out in '87. And then issue 9, right there, is in the King's Gambit storyline. This is the beginning of it. And this is E.R. Cruz did the art for this. Pretty cool. Roy and Dan Thomas were the writers of these. And these are creator owned. So Roy and Dan Thomas own these characters. So that's pretty cool. Eclipse. Who remembers that? The Masked Man. This is the Masked Man number 10. The write and art was by B.C. Boyer. He had created him for an Eclipse, the comic called Eclipse. And he created him as like a one and done, but everybody kind of liked him. He planned on calling him White Collar Man, but it was suggested, the editor didn't really like that, and so he became the Masked Man. When it got its own series, so it went through Eclipse, and then an Eclipse monthly series was doing well, so they gave it its own title, and it ran. He had it planned for 9 issues. That ended in 1986, and it did well. It was color. When he first came out, he was black and white, and then that series was color. In 10, it goes back to the black and white, and it only goes through 12, and ends in 1988. And in this issue, the Masked Man helps an escaped Khan visit his dying son. The idea is that he's a hero, but he's really for common people. So that was kind of the idea. And that was pretty cool. Definitely reminiscent of somebody like the Spirit or Midnight or one of those other characters. John Law. Youngblood Strike File, number 1. This is from 1993. Rob Liefeld and Eric Stevenson were the writer. Well, 2 different stories, but and the art's Rob Liefeld, and then for the Eric Stevenson story, it's Danny Miki and Jay Lee. The cover is Rob Liefeld and Danny Miki. The story written by Rob Liefeld is the first appearance of Glory, and this is part of Liefeld's Extreme Studio, which would later change to Awesome, or Awesome would be its own. I'm not quite sure how that all worked. But I thought it was pretty cool. It's in the box. Yeah. So this is King Conan, Volume 1, number 7 from 1981. Roy Thomas. Let's try this again. Roy Thomas. The art's John Buscema and Ernie Chan. And they both did the covers. This is an adaptation of Conan the Avenger by Bjorn Nyberg and L. Sprague de Camp, and of course Robert E. Howard. Posthumously, Howard's not credited in the original novel. I actually have this novel. I wish I should have dug it out, actually. Oh, darn. Oh, well. He's not actually credited, and what's interesting is Bjorn isn't, Nyberg is not credited. Lynn Carter's credited, and Lynn Carter didn't have anything to do with it. This also has the diamond price here. And these were the first direct editions. This is 1981. So that would mean probably less than 20% of the total print runs went to direct editions. I often call them Whitman's. Whitman was the biggest one of these, but not the only one. And these would have been packaged and sold to places like Woolworth, SS Kresge, Five and Dimes. Five and Dime stores. Closest thing we have to them now would be like dollar stores, Dollar General, stuff like that. And what was interesting is that these direct ones could not be returned. Regular newsstands and even regular, what would be a regular price here, and then have Spider-Man, were direct editions also, but those were controlled by Marvel. These were sold to another distributor and not controlled by Marvel. And these couldn't be returned. There's no way these could go back to Marvel. They had to be sold. These were usually left on the shelf way too long and ended up being butchered. Really bad. This one's actually a VG minus. At least that's what I would grade it as. It might be better. I usually tend to low grade. But yeah, you don't find them in great shape ever. Like I doubt you'd find a near mint. One of these, but it's pretty interesting, and they are rarer. Well, they're definitely rarer in good condition. Let's put it that way. New Mutants, number 11. Chris Claremont's the writer. Sal Buscema. Oh wait, Sal. We were just talking about John. Sal is John's younger brother, and Tom Mandrake. The cover's Walt Simonson and Tom Mandrake. Let's see. Oh, interesting. The editor of this is Louise Jones. And she's listed as Louise Jones here. But here's a surprise. That's Louise Simonson. She married Walt Simonson in, I think, the 80s, early 80s, 1980 they got married. So, yeah. So it's listed as Louise Jones, but really she's Walt Simonson's wife at this point. Pretty cool. Now some other really cool stuff that was in the box. All right, you ready? Dreadstar. Like, who doesn't love seeing Dreadstar? This is number 10. But wait, let me tell you about Dreadstar. So this is volume 1. It was 26 issues, ran 82 to 86. Number 10 came out in 84. Writer, artist, inker, Jim Starlin. And the cover is Jim Starlin and Diana Grazianos. The editors were Archie Goodwin, Joe Duffy, Jim Shooter, Al Milgrom. Signed by Jim Starlin. That is Starlin's signature. I got one at the last Phoenix Con. Not on a Dreadstar, but yeah. So this is a signed book. How cool is that? And it's in fairly decent shape. So for being in a, I mean, now it's in a bag and board, right? This was not in a bag and board. This was loose in a banker box. What else? Some other stuff. Okay. So Wynonna Earp, which had a TV series at some point. This is volume 1. From 96, 97. This is number 2. Bo Smith's the creator and the writer, and Joyce Chin and Mark Irwin did the art. The colorist is Nathan Lum. I'm mentioning the colorist because this is signed in 1997 by Nathan Lum, and he even puts the 97 up here. That is his signature. How cool. Another signed book. OMAC. This is part of the New 52. This is number 4. Out of all the old stuff that was in here, these were a couple of new things. This was 8 issues in 2011 and 2012. Dan Didio and Keith Giffen wrote it. The art's by Keith Giffen and Scott Koblish, and the cover's by Keith Giffen and Scott Koblish, and Scott Koblish signed it, which is pretty cool. It's signed. Giffen, I don't know if you guys know this, Giffen recently started a podcast basically called I'm Not Dead Yet. Yeah, so if you get a chance, take a look, listen to it. I haven't, other than the first one, I haven't really listened to a bunch, but yeah, pretty interesting. And then, let's see if we can even see this one. This one's really dark. So, Mr. Miracle, or Seven Soldiers, Mr. Miracle, 4-issue series. This is number 3, 2006. The writer's Grant Morrison. Arts by Freddie E. Williams II. He did the cover with Dave Craig. And, let's see. There we go. Maybe Freddie Williams II signed it. How cool is that? So some signed books in this, just mixed in, right? And I was like, how cool, right? This is a win. I didn't pay much for the whole box, given I got a bunch of compost for part of it. A lot of the magazines were shot. There were some comics that were so badly torn up that genuinely they were compost. So this is the stuff that was manageable, but I also got, like, I don't even know what to do with this. Okay, but the Man of Steel #1, writer's John Byrne, who also did the art, with Dick Giordano, and the cover is John Byrne and Dick Giordano. It's a retelling of Superman's origin after the Crisis. This is the first retelling before they started in the new series. And yes, that is a John Byrne signature. I don't know if you guys know this. He doesn't do signings and stuff anymore. He's just, he's still around and he still does stuff. And I'm sure you could probably purchase signed books, but he doesn't do cons and stuff like that. He just, he's kind of got frustrated with the crazy way the industry has gone. He wants to tell good stories. He really doesn't, like, he doesn't want to worry about the BS. And anyway, so having something signed by him is friggin' amazing. The book's in okay shape. It's not falling apart or anything like that. There's no major spine bends or anything, but a press or something might be able to help this book. I'm not sure. This is one of those that I may get slabbed just to protect it. Like, this is pretty cool. Anyway, you never know what you're going to find when you buy at a yard sale. Now, you can pick through, and they want you to, because they're going to charge you, you know, maybe 50 cents each one, maybe $1, whatever. I hate when they put stickers on the comics that don't come off, or they write on the comic. I hate that. I've gotten those. I don't like it. This one, the guy was like, make me an offer. And I did. And I didn't notice the signed books. I noticed the All-Star Squadron, Infinity Inc., and thought, okay, I want them. There's a bunch of stuff in here. Pretty hefty. What do I think is going to be worth something? And out of everything that was there, and these have been bagged and boarded, that's really all there was. And it was a banker box, pretty full. But some of them were in, really a lot of these aren't, like, these are good to very good at best. There's a few fine, very fines in here, a couple that might make a VF plus at best, but for the most part, good, very good. A couple of them are really nice, and just they somehow got protected from, maybe because they were in the middle. Yeah, and these aren't as brittle as like some of them get. I don't know if you're not from here, you really don't know what I'm talking about, but you can't leave comics in the garage here or outside. They will become very brittle very quickly, so much so that just touching the paper will cause it to break apart. And there were definitely some of that in there, but some of those were protected, and I got some signed books, so pretty good deal, and I'm pretty happy with it. So Yeah. All right, you guys. Take care of yourselves. More comic calls coming at you as I get them.